Hey, welcome to the Swedish Junior Hockey Podcast. Jacob Dahlin, your host. Today, the white whale of Elite Prospects, United States. The man behind the brand here is what I'm going to call you. We'll see. We'll talk about it here. But Peter Sibner.
Thank you.
Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you very much.
So I'm going to start. I chatted a little bit offline with you. My first interaction or my first introduction to Peter Sibner, you know where that was?
I have no idea, but there's a multitude of choices, I'm sure.
So you were a guest of Emil Nilsen's Vi måste prata podcast.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a couple of years ago.
That was a few years ago. And I was like, oh, there's an Elite Prospects guy in the U.S. That is really interesting. It really didn't talk too much about hockey. It was more about living in the U.S. So
yeah, it was that and politics at the time, I believe, because that was at the height of COVID, if I remember correctly. Yeah. He hasn't reached out back to me again. I'd like to join him again. I don't know if he's still doing that pod, but yeah, Emil is a nice acquaintance to have. He's very passionate about hockey and everything he puts his mind to. So a great character.
That's a great description of him. I left Leksand when I was 18, so he's a little bit younger than me, but since I left, he has been a good source of, if you really want to know what's going on in Leksand, just go into Vi måste prata podcast and you can learn a lot about a lot of things. But anyway, we're not going to talk about Emil, even though good to give him a plug on this podcast as well. So let's get the main topic today is Elite Prospects, and hopefully we can peel the onion a little bit. I guarantee you 100% of the listeners of this podcast use Elite Prospects all the time. So we're not going to need to give an introduction on how do you find Elite Prospects, but I do want to I think it'd be interesting to talk about how we got started and how you guys became the go-to place when it comes to, I mean, it's for junior hockey. It is every junior player is on Elite Prospects themselves, and everybody that is in junior hockey is on Elite Prospects. So give a little introduction about you first, and because you live in Tampa or Clearwater, I can't remember.
Yeah, so I'm in Lakewood Ranch, just south of Tampa. I moved here about 5 years ago to set up the U.S. affiliate of Every Sport Group. Every Sport Group is the parent company of Elite Prospects. Elite Prospects has been in the portfolio of Every Sport since about 2007 or 2008, I will say. But as with anything, pretty humble beginnings. A guy named Johan Nilsson, who's still with us, running the website on a daily basis. He started Elite Prospects in his dorm room when he was still in high school back in 1999. Very passionate about hockey. This is right around when the internet basically, exploded, became a household thing. So what he did was he started writing scouting profiles in English about Swedish junior prospects. He was spending a lot of time at like HF boards and other hockey forums back then. And so he figured he needed to put together a website for this, because even back then, Swedish prospects were, getting drafted to the NHL, making marks in the NHL. So certainly a pent up demand for more info about Swedish prospects. Remember back then there was nothing like we have now. So these NHL fans, they didn't know anything about, well, they drafted this Swedish kid. Who is it? So Johan's website became a go-to source. And then he started including statistics, for these players from the Swedish junior leagues and the Swedish pro leagues and whatnot. And eventually people started adding more statistics. And that's just where it kind of snowballed. So all of a sudden he started putting statistics in for players of all nationalities. And then we started adding, historical statistics just for reference. And then all of a sudden, I guess the game with Hockey DB was on to become the leading hockey database. I will say for the first 7, 8 years of Elite Prospects existence, that was not necessarily the main selling point, but now it certainly is, because we have imported so many million megabytes of data into the platform. We currently have over 1 million players in our database. So I will say, as of today, we're the IMDb or the Wikipedia of hockey, which wasn't, it was just, it was just a scouting website at first, but now it's different, of course.
So was it Elite Prospects? Was that the name of it from the beginning?
It was always EliteProspects.com. Yes.
That itself is, to me, is amazing. How many, companies have been around since in this space of online platforms that are, the same as it was from the beginning. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's a curse and a blessing. Obviously, Elite Prospects, sums up pretty well what we're doing. I mean, our main, um, you know, uh, our primary selling point is the coverage of youth hockey players, right? Youth and junior
Yep.
hockey players, the stars of tomorrow. But we're also a historical archive of some notoriety, I will say. So, we sometimes struggle to explain that Elite Prospects is not just about, young hockey players. It's also, you'll also find people who died like 100 years ago in the database. And, you will find every row of NHL statistics dating back to even pre 1917. So yeah, it is, but it is a good name.
Yeah. No,
It's definitely good choice by Johan back in 1999 when he registered the URL. So December 1999, EliteProspects.com, and we've never left it.
well, and I think that from a standpoint of branding and name recognition, it is very strong within the space of hockey. I mean, everybody knows Elite Prospects. So what about you? What's your, because you started, if I pull you up, you started in you've been 12 years. That's a long time. So what was it like when you started, and what's your background?
Yeah, so before I started with Every Sport and Elite Prospects, I was in management consulting and executive recruitment, staffing, boring stuff like that. Then I started writing columns. I've always been a hockey fan. I basically grew up in a hockey rink. So I've been around the game since I was a fetus, basically. So it was always my number one passion in life. And I was always a bit of a writer. I was a journalist when I was a kid, and I had a knack for writing. So I started writing columns at Hockey Sverige, which was kind of like the hockey news of Sweden.
Yep.
One thing led to another, and I got involved with the owner of Every Sport, which back then was Football Direct, Hockey Sverige, Elite Prospects, several sports website. And they needed basically a CEO. It was a small company back then, 5, 6 websites in the portfolio, and they needed someone with a good business acumen and a passion for, sports, media, journalism. So I took over January 2012, and well, the rest is history, I guess. Back then, Elite Prospects had probably like 300,000 players in the database. Maybe we had something like 200,000 unique visitors a week, and today we're at over 1 million players in the database and 1.5 million visitors a week. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey for sure. I'd say the big growth actually came back in 2014, 15, when we started adding way more North American youth leagues. Up until 2014, we pretty much just had the elite leagues and the junior leagues. And then we started adding AAA hockey. We started adding women's hockey, AA hockey, high school hockey. And that's basically because when I started, I'd say about 60% of our traffic was still from Sweden. And now it's about 60% North America and about 10-15% Sweden, 10% Finland, and the rest is, from the rest of Europe, basically. So it definitely took off in North America around 2015, I'd say. And that's when we also realized, the commercial opportunity for Elite Prospects is primarily North America. Of course, we're still a global website. We've always been. We cover hockey on a global basis, always will do. But in terms of, financial growth, North America is where we get the most traffic. That's where we get the most ad revenue. And also that's where we now have more subscribers. We started our subscription service back in 2018, the EP Premium.
Yep.
And a majority of our subscribers are in North America. That's why they sent me over here like 5 years ago. We realized that we needed presence in the primary market. And well, I raised my hand and I packed the family on a plane and went over.
So I got to ask about that too. I said, why in the world would you go to the Tampa area of Florida? Why not just go to, like most Swedes, that goes to Minnesota or Buffalo or somewhere like that?
Well,
You were smart.
having done almost 40 years in Sweden, I was sick and tired of cold and rain and overcast weather. So, Florida was great. It was, well, we wanted to be on the East Coast. We wanted to be somewhere. We've always, been here on vacation, so we
Yeah.
knew the area very well. And also, to be honest, it's the fastest growing state in the U.S. Everybody's moving here now, and hockey is, growing at a crazy speed. It's very it's been very fascinating to live down here these past 5 years and see how much hockey is growing in Florida.
Yeah. Were you surprised about, just curious, because I went through the same thing, but mine was 30 years ago. But were you surprised about the involvement of men's league hockey in the U.S. when you came? Because I have to believe that when you pull up your Elite Prospects profile, which is on there.
Oh yeah. Staff profile and player profile.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Look, yes, let's not talk about the staff one here, but I'm missing I'm assuming that you're in a beer league somewhere in the Tampa area.
Yeah, so as of right now, I'm actually so involved with coaching, I don't really have time to play beer league anymore. They're trying to pull me in, and my old team actually just won the championship. They never won it when I was there, so I'm trying to get back in now, but I think the chances are slim. No, I played quite a bit of beer league when I got here. It was a great way of getting to know people, and I was surprised with well, what an industry it is. I mean, at our little rink here in Ellington, about half an hour south of Tampa, there were probably well, they had like 6 or 8 divisions for beer league, and it's crazy. You know what it's like back home in Sweden. It's once you pass 25 and stop playing, at a serious level, it's hard to ever get out on the ice anymore. There's no such thing as beer league. You got maybe like the veterans will play it at 11:30 p.m. on a Sunday or something. If you know somebody, you get to play. But here you walk up and you sign up for a team that is suitable to your level, and boom, you're off to the races. And it's been great. We had a lot of fun. We won a championship in B League one year. I played 40 plus A League for a couple of years. And well, now I'm starting to add a few pounds here with living the good life in Florida. So I should probably, fall season is about to start. So I'm definitely going to lace up again this season, I think.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. And I mean, I took 22 years off, and then I didn't have any equipment anymore, and got into, I mean, it was a similar path, got into coaching my son, who was in Learn to Play at the time, 4 years old. The guy was involved in special hockey, and then coached for 10 years and was involved playing in B League and C League and here, and, just fun. And then I actually quit because I got too competitive. I just couldn't I couldn't control myself. I got too emotionally involved. And so
yeah. I mean, I never played hockey at a high level back home. I played Division 3, mostly Division 4. So, but beer league in Florida, there's definitely always going to be a few levels beneath you if you have that. Even though I have a very modest background, it's definitely another reason to like Florida.
Yeah. And then now you're coaching your son Milton, right?
Yeah, so I'm coaching U16 travel hockey. We got a really good group of 2008s there this year, a bit of a project. We're looking to be a really good double A team next year. And he also just started high school, and I, instantly got involved with that. So now I'm a high school hockey coach too. I went through all the steps of the USA hockey tier 4, I think it is.
Yeah.
I'm pondering taking my level 5, but I just got to find the time for it. It seems fairly advanced to do that. But yeah, I've gone through the steps of the USA hockey system, and it's a lot of fun. It's, being around hockey all day for work and then going to the rink as soon as you're done. It can get, life can get overloaded with hockey every once in a while, but I wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to the site here. So one question I had is market share. So when I first started looking, I was using Hockey DB, and I rarely ever, not to throw them under the bus, but I don't go to Hockey DB, but they were the number one earlier, I would
Yeah.
say, here. I don't know really if that was global from that standpoint, but do you guys measure market share, or how do you?
No, not really, because we've had a lot of conversations with the guy at Hockey DB over the years, and I was an avid user of Hockey DB myself before I
Yep.
started using Elite Prospects, and back in the day, it would serve two different purposes, I guess, and then we started adding NHL statistics, and there was a competition situation, of course, that was inevitable. Hockey DB is still a really good and simple to use website, and I sometimes use it myself, actually. But of course, Elite Prospects, with the muscle we have, being a part of a Swedish publicly listed media company, we have more resources at our
Yep.
disposal as far as technical development and marketing, and being able to hire staff for content production and all that. And so I mean, we serve different purposes now. We have a lot of statistics at Elite Prospects. We have 13, 14-year-old youth players at Elite Prospects. They don't. So I mean, it's two different websites these
Yep.
days. So we don't really measure ourselves up against Hockey DB that much. There's not really a good way to figure out market share. They certainly don't have the same commercial drive that we do. So yeah, I mean, I totally admire Hockey DB for all they've done for hockey over the years, and I definitely wouldn't want to throw them under the bus. It's been a great website for decades as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I share your sentiment. What about, so the other question I have is, how do you, in a simple way, explain the back, how do you get the data? Because, and is, if you can, in,
Yeah, so I mean, it's
because a lot of it, here's why I'm asking the question. A lot of people ask the question, well, how do I get my son on Elite Prospect, as an example? And so, and of course that they're part of a database based on where they play, and you don't necessarily put your son on, or daughter on Elite Prospects. But explain that.
Yeah, so this has changed a little bit over the years. Obviously, now adding players at a much younger age, and we're not doing that for any other reason than that there were tons of requests for that.
Yep.
Back in the day, you would get on Elite Prospects when you made a junior team at a certain, elite level. Like back in Sweden, you would get on Elite Prospects when you made TV-pucken,
Yep.
essentially. So as we have started covering lower leagues, lower divisions, lower level, younger age groups, of course, the need for data has rapidly increased, because the pro hockey leagues, that's pretty easy to get. Some of them we partner directly with a league. We use their API to just constantly track their data as it gets updated. For other leagues, we have, certain imports built so that we get up-to-date data within minutes of the original source updating it. But for junior leagues and women's leagues and youth hockey leagues, we still rely on a network of more than 150 volunteers putting statistics in from all kinds of leagues. So like we have 2 or 3 guys doing just Minnesota high school hockey, and they're scouring every team website every day to make sure that we have updated statistics. So we still have, I don't know the exact number at any given time, but there's over 100 volunteers at any given time, at least 100 volunteers helping elite prospects out. And it's also very self-sanitary in a way. So let's say you have a kid who plays hockey and you have the wrong height and weight and the wrong statistics and the wrong team assignment. Well, I bet you're going to let us know, right?
Yeah. I mean, I have through the
Yeah.
years, right?
So the audience, just like with IMDb, or Wikipedia, the audience, 1.5 million unique users a week. That's gonna be a lot of eyeballs on the website. At any given time, we're gonna get a lot of feedback from users, and we're gonna get a lot of corrections just by users reaching out. So us getting the data is really a patchwork of many different methods. And we're never, we're not 100% correct. No one can be, but we strive to be 99% correct. And for many leagues we're sort of at that level. That said, there are still many historical gaps in our historical database. There's still some years from certain leagues that we just don't have, like college hockey in the US late 80s. Still a lot of gaps there for sure. But yeah, so it's we get our data in a lot of ways.
But for example, so a lot of people use either so a lot of people, so take USA Hockey. So your organization probably have a Sport Engine. Sport Engine is a big user of websites for youth hockey organizations. Is
Yeah.
there an automatic feed from Sport Engine to your site, or is that so the organizations that are part of USA Hockey? So what's the other one? Goal Line, Sport Engine. Those are probably the Goal Line is probably not as prevalent anymore, but
yeah. So yeah, I mean, we have automated imports from certain leagues. We have Game Sheet or League Stat or whatnot. So I'm
yeah,
actually not the tech guy here. That would be for Johan to answer actually,
yeah.
but there are a lot of automated imports, especially from the higher up leagues, the pro leagues. Anything that's constantly available online is pretty easy to pick up through an import. But there's also a lot of manual labor
That,
going into it at any
that,
given day. So
yeah,
so
I'm
we're
glad.
getting basically 3, 4, maybe 500 man hours a day of volunteer work taking place at Elite Prospects, and that will keep you up to date with a lot of hockey.
Yeah, I'm glad you. That was just a curious question that I hear a lot of people of. So go back to this thing of the parent that if you have a U10A level player, they're not gonna
Yeah, we're not adding U10 players. We
no,
started Bantam in the US and Canada, and U14 or U15 in Sweden. So
yeah,
in Europe, yeah. So no U10s really. We do have a couple of, like the Quebec International Pee Wee tournament. We do
or the
that,
brick. Yeah,
but
right.
yeah, let's use a 14UA parent.
Yeah. So it is now down to 14UA
In
is
certain
available.
areas,
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. So it varies by region. Like down here in Florida, we have a pretty decent Sayhoff has a pretty decent website where you can get all the rosters, which
Yeah.
helps us, populate the U14 and the U16 levels, even A, double A. Some regions it's tougher, so we got to rely on manual labor to a larger extent. But
Yeah. So how many, next question I have is how many people, or do you guys track uh, a lot of people that I see unfortunately don't update their own profile. So they're on there, but they don't know it exists, or they don't know, or they don't care to update it. And then you have the users that are verified. They are they update the specifics that you can go in as a
yeah,
someone else can go in and update height, weight, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
so this has been part of our, business development strategy. Back in the day, if you played like, obviously if you played OHL or WHL or USHL hockey, you would be on Elite Prospects because it's a league that we would organically cover, right?
Yep.
But as we started adding younger age groups and more leagues, we were getting overwhelmed with requests to please add my son, please add my team, please add this. And we got to a point where we just basically couldn't handle it. And that was part of the business development project for EP Premium. So what we did was we offered a subscription model, where if you do have an active premium subscription, you can request to update your profile at any time. Because normally a 14U A league, we will update like once a year or twice a year. A lot of them don't even carry online statistics. So we just have the player bio basically.
Yep. Yep.
And they will get updated like height and weight. We might update, once a year.
Yep.
But if you want to keep, for a lot of people, Elite Prospects is really important as they try to progress through the hockey system because, a lot of scouts and GMs and, team managers or coaches will go to Elite Prospects to look up a player. So we were getting a lot of requests every day for, update my height and weight
Yeah.
and can I get a new picture? So we realized that, there's some business potential here. And also for us to be able to do it, we need to charge because we need to hire people to actually handle all these requests. We get thousands of update requests per day now. And, that's, that takes quite a lot of manpower. So if you do have an EP Premium subscription and you're over 14 years of age and you play organized hockey, you can ask to be added. And you can also, if you have a subscription, you can also have your entire team added if you're a coach or a team manager at like the 14U level. So
Yeah.
that's why that's one of the reasons why we put that into Elite Prospects Premium.
Yeah, and I think so. Let's talk about that because so for me, I'll give you the second plug here. Jeff Colson with Junior Hockey Advisor was probably so. My son went from U16 into then going back to Sweden to play, and before U16, it was just hey, you were on there looking at maybe different players, but I really didn't get interested in as a parent, and my son was the same way in terms of really utilizing the platform as a advertising board for yourself as a player, right? So at that time it became I really didn't have a whole lot of it was nice, but I didn't use it, so therefore it wasn't as important to go in and update the stuff. But the moment that it became important because you realize that not a lot, but everybody that are a scout, coach, GM will use Elite Prospects. I would almost guarantee. So that's the first thing they're going to go in and look you up, or who's this kid, right? So I started listening to Junior Hockey Advisor. It was a Facebook discussion group that Jeff does a great job. And what he does, so it was pretty evident all the tools that he was using was in the premium version. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of usability in the free version, but I think the premium version was the next level. And what I found was my first thing was the entry point was pretty easy. It was pretty inexpensive and fairly easy to just transition, and it gives you some more tools. Talk about those.
Yeah, so we realized that we had, a lot of hardcore fans, right? A huge portion of our audience goes to Elite Prospects several times a day. And so we realized that, we had a list of so many features that we wanted to build, but in order to basically, secure the finances to be able to build all these, because, tech development is expensive.
Yep.
So we realized that there would probably be a willingness to pay for premium features at Elite Prospects. This is right around when the Athletic started, just before the Athletics started, and it was right around when some other, hockey outlets launched their paid subscriptions. So we knew that there was, an increasing willingness to pay for content. And so we put up a plan. We were going to add 15 new features to the website, and we were going to add an editorial component to go back to our, scouting report days, if you will, where we would actually cover prospects. For many years, Elite Prospects was just about statistics. So we wanted to sort of get back to the roots and actually be an outlet, be an authority within the prospects field. So we put together our editorial department, which is now EP Rinkside, and we invented a lot of features that we knew our audience would appreciate, such as, the player tracker, custom rosters, compare player features. We put up a portal for the agents, because we were getting a lot of agency requests all the time to keep, the roster updated, and player profiles updated. So we put together what we call the agent portal. And we invented a number of other features. We started adding game logs. So for the top 35, 40 pro leagues and junior hockey leagues in the world as of today, you can get game logs, individual game logs for each player. So that was just a number of the features we added. We have the EP contact book, so users can contact each other, etc. And we put this together into a package that we called EP Premium. A year or so later, after launching this, we started adding the active player features, such as, request to update stats.
Yep.
And then we also launched the verified suite in early 2020, where active hockey players, they can upload fitness testing results, they can add YouTube video clips, get endorsements from other players, and they can also add, resumes and even, high school and college grades, to become more, employable as hockey players, if you will. So EP Premium today is a wide array of features for hockey fans, hockey media, active hockey players, coaches and managers. And of course, EP Premium is used by scouting staff. I'd say the majority of the NHL teams are using EP Premium for scouting and player tracking purposes today. And of course, a lot of active players have a EP Premium subscription to be able to stand out, to keep their profile verified, make sure that, height and weight, goals and assists are always updated.
Yeah, and I think it's fairly inexpensive. What is it, like $12 a month or $9 a month?
Yeah, it was $9 a month.
$9, I think. Yeah,
it was $9 a month forever. And actually, just this spring, we realized that it's been at $9 for 4 years now, and we've added probably 15 new features since we added the original 15 features. It's just a much better product today. We're doing our draft guide, the fantasy guide. So it's just, our production level is probably 3 times as high today as when we launched EP Premium. So we decided to go with the inflation trend of raising prices, and we upped it to $11.99.
okay.
And so far that has been received fairly well. I mean, we wanted to raise the prices so we could incorporate even more features into Elite Prospects, and there are tons of them coming. We just finalized a project to rebuild the entire backbone of Elite Prospects so we can be much more agile with inventing new features and launching new features. And we're upping our level of content production quite a bit. So we're certain that our subscribers will get their money's worth down the road.
Well, I use it every day. And I use it for, running this podcast. It's right now we're running a series of North American Hockey Swedish players that either played this year or last year in the North American Hockey League. And how do I get that? It's just, as a premium user, I sort, and easy.
Yep.
Boom, here
Our
they are.
advanced search filter will get you all you need in about 20 seconds. So
yeah, no, so it's easy to find. And then the next thing is find them on, if I want to contact, we just had Kevin Marks Norén as an example, he's going to Northern Michigan now in the fall, and he played in the North American Hockey League. So found him there. Okay, Swedish guy, how do I find him? Go to Instagram or wherever, which most players also have a social media presence, and contact them that way, or find another connection to get introduced and hit them up, and boom, they're on the podcast. So
And of course,
go ahead.
Another useful feature, of course, is that if you're looking to scout or recruit a player, you're going to get the player connections. All of a sudden you realize, okay, this guy played with 5 other guys that I've coached, or 3 other guys that I know, or he played with this guy's brother. And I know a lot of the general managers over in Europe, they use that feature a lot to get intel on North American skaters, because there's always, hockey is a small world, right? So there's always a connection out there somewhere. And that's a very useful feature too.
Yeah. No, and I just recorded a episode with this is interesting for you that are stat crazy. So Philip Wiberg. Do you know Philip?
No.
All right. So I do my research, look him up. And so do you have your site up now?
Yeah.
All right, look him up right now. And it's Philip, Philip, Wiberg with a W.
Yeah. Norwegian or Swedish.
So what do you find that is interesting?
I find 4 Philip Wiberg in the database, 1 Norwegian, 3 Swedes. 2 of them are verified. 1 is currently slated to play for the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Got 1 guy in Karlskoga, Sweden, Sundsvall Hockey, Sweden, and Venice, Sweden.
So what's interesting there is that 3 of them are 2002 birth year.
Yeah.
So I got recommended through Kim Hilmerson, and said, oh yeah, maybe you should have this guy on. Okay. Because they played together at Maine Nordiques. Contacted what I just said on social media, contacted Philip, said, hey, I'd really like to have you on the podcast, was recommended. And he was like, yeah, awesome, sounds good. And well, it wasn't the right one.
No.
And so the guy with the Maine Nordiques is the Norwegian guy, right? And come to find out, when I'm talking to Philip from Sundsvall,
wrong Philip.
It was wrong Philip, but interesting, incredible guy. And come to find out, the third guy, so Philip from Sundsvall, actually played with another Philip in the same team, on the same line. One has number 21 and one has number 22. So,
exact same spelling, same birth year, everything. Yeah.
Not a PH, not a single V. All
no,
3.
I mean, we get that a lot. That's a, we have, we got 2 Erik Karlssons drafted into the NHL, right?
Or Sebastian Aho.
Yeah, we got 2 Sebastian Aho from different countries. That's
yeah. One funny thing about names, we played youth hockey tournament a few years ago, or I don't know, 5-6 years ago, and the opposing team roster had 1 Chuck Norris and 1 Indiana Jones on the same roster. So we were impressed about that. So all right, last thing here before we round out, where's it going? Because here's what I'm wondering is, we had the CEO of Sportway on talking about Svensk Hockey TV. We've had Morgan Ziba from Speedio on. We're going to be talking about RinkNet, and I know that Huddle bought what's the one? I forget the platform that a lot of scouts are
Instat.
using. Instat, and some of the, understand a lot of the North American hockey leagues are moving away from Instat and these type of things. But are you guys, I'm sure that you've had discussions about, do we incorporate that type of media in the future?
Yeah, so it's been, it's been an ongoing discussion for us, and we've looked into video content down a couple of avenues, I will say. One being, of course, the broadcast opportunity that, if you gather all the hockey fans in the world, that's a pretty good platform to be broadcasting hockey, right?
Yep.
But a lot of people are already doing it pretty well. And
Yes.
so as for now, we have steered away from broadcasting, being a rights holder and whatnot. That, I mean, I'm not ruling it out for sure. That might certainly be something we do down the road. But as for incorporating, advanced statistics and video content into our player profile, becoming like a video editing platform, there's already a ton of companies doing that and doing that really well. You mentioned Instat, there's a few others. So we don't really think there might not be a whole lot of space for us in that market. It's probably more so just stick to your guns for elite prospects. I mean, we're going to keep doing better what we already do really well, being a very, very thorough, comprehensive database for hockey, adding more content, adding more, scouting reports, more detailed content, and even more useful features for the active player. And another thing that we're looking at is, of course, the event side, where we already have the EP Cup Series now going on its second year here in a couple of weeks in Boston. Starting off, we have the EP Invitational. We've done 2 editions of the EP Invitational, and we're doing it again this coming spring. So I will say we're not necessarily looking too deep into the, video field of things. What we are looking into, of course, what features can we add that will increase the number of professional users that we have? And we're looking at, there's a couple of avenues for us to go down, and we haven't entirely decided which one it will be yet. But as for being a video tool, probably not.
Yeah, I applaud you for that, because I think that what I have found is that where companies really kind of good to great concept of stick to your core competence here, and where a lot of companies take Instat as an example, where now that I think they were bought by Huddle, but they were having a lot of people that were having problems with it because of service issues, and I think that it becomes one of those, we only have so much resources and we can't keep up with the demand, and then service level starts dropping. And that's certainly something that you brought it up early on, and that is the quality and the accuracy of the product. It's you're never going to be perfect. You're only as good as the data that is in the databases in there, but you have a really, really strong system that kind of manages itself. But as a user, what I appreciate is easily, quickly be able to get to what I want to, just like we did when we were looking up Philip Wiberg.
Yeah.
And that information is accurate. And
yeah, so a big thing for EP with regards to, I mean, you mentioned Instat. They've been, well, in my experience, the best tool for video scouting, and so there's not really a whole lot of point in us trying to, do that one better. We would much rather be a complement to Instat, and the number one difference, of course, is Elite Prospects has always been a public platform. It's always accessible to everyone. Of course, there are a number of premium features that you got to pay to access, but that said, anyone can go to Elite Prospects and find very useful information about a hockey player, which is not the case with the tools you're bringing up. They're B2B only. You have to be professionally working in hockey to benefit from these tools, and we sort of want to be more at the crossroads between hockey fans, active players, while also adding value for professional users. But Instat doesn't cater to the average hockey fan. We do, and we will continue to do so. Instat doesn't cater to the average active player. We do, and we'll continue to do so. So we're more about the volume market than the niche market, if you will.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. One of the questions that we round out, we actually have 2 things. We're doing a project with Target Aid where we're highlighting each guests get to talk about and tell me about klubben i mitt hjärta, or the team in my heart, and then we'll highlight that on our Target Aid site and give some promotion to that. So what's your selection?
Yeah, it would have to be EF Troja Ljungby, of course.
Oh,
But I mean, that said, my youth club is Rydaholms SK. I'm still, very proud to say I'm from Rydaholm. I played there growing up, but they've been in Division 3 and Division 4 forever. So, as far as, being passionate about a team and their results and their progress, it would be EF2 Ljungby. I grew up always going to games at Sundbyhov starting back in like 92, 93, when they were constantly knocking on the door to get promotion to the SHL. They played the qualifiers for about, I think, like 7 or 8 years straight, and always found a way to stumble. So they never quite made it up there. And now the financial realities have caught up. So they're sort of dancing between the third and second level in Sweden now, but they're still definitely the number one club in my heart.
I love it. I love it. That's why we're doing this, because there's these. I was just talking to one of the guys from Gothenburg, and his team is Lerum, and he said the jersey I have on my wall is Lerum, and that's what it's all about, and we're going to highlight that. Last question here: you met yourself, your 17-year-old self now, but you have a few more years of tread on your tires, so to speak, or miles on your tires. What advice would you give yourself today, but you're 17? Your son is now almost there, so
Yeah.
but you didn't know back then that you know now.
Don't change a thing. Go on as planned. I, to be honest, I will not complain about a single thing. I've made my mistakes in life for sure, but I have a fantastic wife and two fantastic children. I'm running Elite Prospects. I live in the best place on earth. So far so good, health wise, healthy family, lots of friends. I'm having a ton of fun with everything I do, being it, coaching hockey or working in hockey or, going to the NHL draft. I've been on the ice I would never have made it to the Stanley Cup finals as a hockey player. I will tell you that. Even my friends back when I was 15, 16, 17, they told me you're much better at writing about hockey than playing hockey. So that said, I've been on the ice for three or four Stanley Cup champions. And I would never have made it onto the ice after a Stanley Cup clinching game as a hockey player. I have gotten to do it, in a media capacity, and I wouldn't want to have another job than this. It's the best job in the world. And so, to my 17-year-old self, I would say, plow away, keep
Yeah,
going, bud. You're on the right
yeah,
track here.
yeah. Well, as we get into the Stanley Cup playoffs and stuff, you can enjoy that again, but on Carolina ice this year. So we'll see how that goes, right?
Yeah, it could be finally could be the year, I guess. They've been beating around the bush for quite some time now, but yeah, it'll be exciting to see. It's a good little matchup down here in the South now with the Lightning and I think the Panthers are going to be good again. Carolina's going to be good, and then you got I think at the end of the day this will be Edmonton's year, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, Peter, thank you for jumping on. It's been educational. It's been informative, which is what we're all about, educate and inform. And everybody already knows where to go on Elite Prospects, but they can look you up on LinkedIn and other places. And thanks for jumping on and sharing your story.
Thank you very much, Jacob. It's been a pleasure.